If you're an American and you're seriously thinking about moving to France, whether you're chasing a dream, running from a burnout, or you just need something different, this video is for you. My wife and I moved here from Beijing when she was pregnant, and we've now made France our permanent home. So I am going to walk you through everything I wish I knew before we did. Everything from visas, housing, healthcare, costs, and most importantly, why it might be the right move for you. Okay, so a few rules of the road as we get started. First of all, this is not a political video, but for many people, leaving the US for France is about more than baguettes and wine. Secondly is that I am not a relocation expert or attorney. I cannot help you get your visa, but I can help you think clearly and strategically about the process, including that and everything else you need to think about. This video is not our story at Chez Davis, me and Susie specifically, it's yours. The purpose of this video is to help you as you are considering or endeavoring to do something similar to what we have done. I will share some of our experiences in context only when it's useful as an example. Our channel will have many more videos about us, but this channel is really meant to be about helping you make France your home, if that's your wish. This video is organized into 6 main sections. I'm using the journalistic framework of who, what, when, where, how, and why to discuss this for you with your needs in mind. Now, you can use the chapter markers to jump around if there's a specific part you need or to go back and revisit after you've watched the whole thing. But I suggest you watch it all the way through to the end for the hidden gems and other context that may be useful to the one thing that you're interested about. I'll also say that you're going to hear me mention ChatGPT a lot in this video. Now, this is not a sponsored video. I don't have any sponsors as of the time I'm recording this, but we use it a lot. We did not use it before we made the move, and that's why I'm such an evangelist for it now, basically. I will suggest ways to use ChatGPT to help you simulate and do the research and help your thinking process with your own specific situation, especially for your timelines and your prep. It's really invaluable, and I'll show you how to really maximize it. Lastly, if you want some one-on-one help with this and you want to book a consulting call with me, I do have some limited availability to do that. There's a calendar link at the end of the video and in the description, so check that out if you think it's right for you. And as a bonus, at the very end of the video, I will mention several other YouTube channels that we have found really, really helpful and insightful for different parts of our move and getting our life going here in France. We're not affiliated in any way. I don't know any of these people. We've never met. I've never spoken with any of them, but I find their content great, and they cover certain things, certain micro niches that I don't touch on that may be exactly what you need. So watch my whole video, please, but then at the very end, I will mention these other channels for you. So let's get started. Let's start by talking about who this video is for. Now, you could be anyone, and you're welcome here. I hope you find this video entertaining or useful or interesting for whatever reasons you're watching it. But in this video in particular, I am especially speaking to Americans who want to move to France. That's the focus of this. Now, you might be a student, a young professional, mid-career, retired, single, married, kids, no kids, lots of different situations. And I can't possibly cover every micro situation in one video, but I'm going to tell you enough information that lets you take it from here. And then, as I said, I'm available if you want to talk, and there are lots of other resources I'll include. Now, one other thing we'll consider is you might be running to France or running from the US or somewhere in between, like most people. So I'm going to give you broad categories of who this applies to, but your specific case might differ from something that I say as an example. So I'm going to point you to other channels, as I mentioned, and resources at the end that go deeper on those niches that I don't cover. So next, let's talk about the what. What do you want to do? This is the shortest section. You want to move to France, right? That's the goal. So this video will walk through what it takes occupationally, emotionally, logistically, and practically. So let's talk about when. When you want to move determines everything else. Which visa you can get, how long you have to prepare, which documents are valid for your situation. The best case is you're already eligible and you're prepared. You have your funding in order, you have a passport with a lot of validity, and you have some French contacts lined up in a general plan already. And this video will hopefully fill in some gaps for you to help accelerate and facilitate some of those processes. The worst case, maybe you're starting from scratch, maybe you're just getting your feet wet with this, or maybe you've gotten conflicting information and you're confused, or maybe just you have a longer timeline for when you could move. So you may need 6 or 12 months or even more, depending on your situation, to get your documents in order, get your money together, make a visa appointment, figure out your housing plan, and all of that. So let me give you your first pro tip here. I'm going to suggest and show you how to use ChatGPT to help you back time your move based on where you are and when you want to make the move. Okay, so what I've done is I've created a brand new ChatGPT thread that we're going to use for the examples in this video. And I'll give you a second pro tip, which is using ChatGPT more efficiently. I'm going to use the voice to text option, which is this little microphone right here. And I'm going to speak my command into this. Hi there, ChatGPT. I am recording a video for Americans who want to move to France. And let's use a hypothetical situation. Let's say we have someone named Dave. Dave is married to Joanna and they have 2 children. I would like you to please simulate the steps they need to take if it is today's date and they want to move to France by the end of the year. Let's say they want to move to France by December 1. What are the considerations that Dave and Joanna and their kids need to think about? Then you hit that button, it creates it to text, and I hit submit. You can see that ChatGPT gave me a great hypothetical scenario outline of the things you need to consider. You can freeze frame the video through any of these points to see the details that I'm going to talk through, but it starts with the key question, why are we moving and under what legal status? We'll get into that more later in this video. So choosing the right visa category, confirm your eligibility, start the process of that, prepare your financial documents and hypothetical, and a hypothetical amount that you need to be able to show. Start learning French. Highly recommended, more on that later as well. Making your visa appointments and preparing your documents, submitting your applications, getting your approvals for your visas, your moving logistics, enrolling in school if the kids are school age, and your final prep. So health insurance, maintaining your immigration status once you get to France, preparing for that, opening a French bank account, and settling in. So at the end, we have a summary checklist for Dave and Joanna of the things they need to do, who needs to do it, and the timing based on the goal of when they want to be here. We'll talk about that in detail in the how section of this video. Next thing you want to do is search the VFS Global website or the francevisas.gov.fr site, and I have these links below, to see the visa appointment wait times in your area. Note that some French consulates are backlogged months in advance. It depends on where you are, especially for student and family visas. So you want to start this process very, very early, depending on when you want to move. Okay, so the next question is, where do you want to live in terms of geography and lifestyle? What is right for you? So France is not just Paris, okay? Just ask any Parisian or person who is a non-Parisian. So you want to think in terms of vibes and logistics based on you and your situation. So first off, where do you want to live? Ask yourself these questions. Do you like or want city life or suburban life? Do you like a small town or do you like a rural situation? Do you want to live by the beach? France has all these things and more. There are mountains. There are parts of the country that are close to different countries that feel like a blend of France plus that country. If you live in the Southwest, it feels very Spanish. If you live in the Southeast, there are parts that feel very Italian. If you are up in the Northeast, it's much more German. So you have all kinds of vibes and situations. But the next question to ask is, do you want something familiar or totally, totally different? Will you work remotely? Will you need a car? Can you drive a car? Do you speak any French yet, or are you going to be relying on English-speaking resources to some degree to get you situated? That's very important because for the most part, outside of Paris, you won't find that much English. Some of the other big cities, there are definitely pockets of expats, and there are places where you can always find bilingual help, like fancy hotels in those cities. Pro tip, again, fancy hotels typically have fairly bilingual staff. At least one person, even in a medium-sized city, at the front desk at a nice hotel, you're going to find someone who speaks English there if you run into problems and need help. But as far as living your daily life, if you don't have any French yet, you may want to consider being in or near Paris simply because you can find enough English here. It's certainly not universal, but there are plenty of people who are bilingual or better. So that's something to really consider. I would not move out into the middle of the country with no French language skills. Would not recommend. at all. So let me talk about where we've lived in France, just for some quick context. Our other videos get into this in some detail, where we've lived, where we live now, on and on and on. This video is not that video. This is for you. We first moved to France to reunite after a long pandemic separation. We found a place in Montmartre in the 18th district. Now, we were not in one of the really photogenic, touristy, quaint parts of Montmartre. We were way up at the top of it, and it was kind of hood adjacent. We had to be careful to watch our bags, and we learned all about spotting pickpockets. We had no problems, fortunately, and it was fine, but it wasn't what people think of when they think of Paris. After that, we moved out to a place in Normandy, which is not what people think of when you think of Normandy. We didn't go to Deauville, which is this gorgeous, quaint little town, and it's beautiful. There's a very famous cinema history there, and it's quite expensive. We went to a city that is on the coast called, in English, you would say Le Havre. French people or French speakers would call it Love or something close to that. Please pardon me if you're a French person or a French speaker. I'm doing my best. But that's an industrial port town, and it's probably no one's idea of a good time. But we actually thought it was kind of cool, and we had a great time there. It gave us a very different point of view on France than just being in Paris, which is why we chose it in the first place. And it was actually very convenient to get into Paris via high-speed rail or the long-distance commuter buses, which I'll do videos about all of this later. After our time in Normandy, though, we left France for a while until we moved here. So we moved here December 2023, and Susie was 8 months pregnant, and I needed a place that would cover us for the run-up to the baby and then post-delivery to let us really get situated. So I booked a 2-month Airbnb in the 16th district. Now, the 16th is very fancy. The 16th and the 8th are adjacent. If you look at a map of Paris, you see that the districts spiral out from the center like this. So the 8th district is more interior, which is very nice. And then the 16th is still Paris. Parisians in the center of the city consider the 16th more the suburbs. It's not the suburbs. We're in the suburbs, but the 16th is still very nice, and frankly, it's pretty expensive and high-end. We found a great deal on a 2-bedroom place that was big enough to allow our mother-in-law to also come and have her own bedroom and bathroom and be with us while Susie was delivering the baby and helping us when we first got home, and that was amazing. That also allowed us time to look for the place that would become our longer-term home. After the baby was born and we had to move out of the 16th because we couldn't afford to stay there very long, frankly, we moved into the southeast suburbs. We were first in a city called Champigny-sur-Marne. Now we're in Joinville-le-Pont. In English, you would say Joinville, the bridge, because there's a giant bridge over the Marne River. It's very nice. It's very affordable. It's green, it's family-friendly, and it's still less than 30 minutes from central Paris by the transit, which is fantastic. So I really like living in the suburb. So my next suggestion for you with ChatGPT is to use it to get overviews of neighborhoods and compare the cities and towns with your priorities in mind. And it will suggest places based on your desired pace of life and your budget and your lifestyle. So let's get back to Dave and Joanna with their 2 children, and let's make them small children. Let's give them a girl and a boy. But let's say that their daughter is in daycare and still will need another year of daycare before she can go off into kindergarten. And then let's say their son is going to be starting first grade. So what I'm going to do next is tell ChatGPT more about Dave and Joanna and their hypothetical situation that I'll make up as I go along here and have some fun with this. And I will ask it to suggest ideal areas they should look at in France to consider moving to. And I'm going to use the voice-to-text feature because, again, it keeps me from doing a lot of typing. It's a lot faster. Okay, GPT, so continuing this example, Dave and Joanna had 2 small children. Let's say they have a daughter who is currently in daycare, and she will need 1 more year of daycare after they make the move, if they move on the timeline that we're working out for them. And they have a son who will be starting first grade. So they will need to deal with health issues and the school applications and such. So Dave, let's make Dave an electrical engineer. And he's early 40s. He has had some success, and Joanna had been a school teacher in the U.S. They've saved up some money that will allow them to make this move and give them time for Dave to either join a firm locally or can possibly open his own. And so the way they're looking at dividing the duties is to allow Dave to work full-time on his job search. Joanna is going to be the primary caregiver at home and get the household set up and help lead getting the children into school and such. But Joanna wants to become a full-time French student because Joanna has a goal to be fluent in a year, at least functional in a year. She has no French right now. Dave has a little. And Dave is used to working in bigger cities. They're moving from Dallas, Texas. So they live out in Arlington, but Dave mostly works in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So he's used to driving huge distances. And meanwhile, Joanna's school was there in Arlington. So she is used to a smaller commute, and she wants to simplify their life as much as they can in their new country. Where are some places you think they should consider moving in France? And what are the next steps they need to think about specifically in terms of getting settled and getting their children situated? Okay, so GPT spit out a nice answer to this. Let's see what they say. Part 1, where should Dave and Joanna move in France? It lists their priorities for them: great public transit, daycare for the daughter, primary school for their son, language schools for Joanna, career opportunities for Dave, and a reasonable cost of living since they're funding their move with savings for now, as we did and are. So I appreciate that idea. So the top 4 cities they should consider. They suggest Lyon, and they talk about why. Toulouse, Nantes, and then Greater Paris, but outside the core. So they suggest, number 1, living where we live in Joinville-le-Pont, very family friendly, great creches. Creche is French for the daycare. And the RERA to Central Paris. That's the train station. That's the commuter trains that augment the metro subway system and the buses. And we use it all the time. To go into Paris, I take a bus to the RER into the city, and then I may or may not take the metro, depending on where I have to go, or another RER line. So that's very interesting. It tells us where they should look. So part 2, next steps. What do they need to do to get their kids settled and start their new life? Well, they have to take care of schooling and daycare for the kids. They talk about the daughter and the son and their situation. They talk about healthcare and insurance, administrative setup. So Joanna's French learning path. They suggest intensive French classes and starting at Alliance Française. Susie and I both did the A1 French intensive at Alliance Française, and it was really great. And Susie goes to another school now for more immersive study and longer term. That works better for her, but that's a good suggestion. It suggests Dave's work plan, how he should evaluate his options, what he should think about, and bonus considerations. Don't rush to buy a car, since transit could handle the needs in most cities if you pick the right place. Using Le Bon Coin and PAP to find housing. And then joining local Facebook groups like Americans in, Lyon, for instance, or expats in France. So now that you have some ideas to research for where you might want to live, let's talk about how you're going to do this. So this will be the biggest section of the video. Again, it's all chapter marked, so you can skip right to the piece that you're most interested in or have an urgent need to know more about. But I suggest you watch it start to finish, especially if you're just getting started. So first thing you have to do is pick your visa. You want to use the France Visa Wizard. Now the link is in the description here. I'm going to walk you quickly through what it looks like. You can skip ahead if you just wanted that piece of information. But you want to figure out what is the right visa type for your situation. A long stay visa, the VLS-TS visa, or are you coming on a student visa, family, talent passport, retiree, etc. So the situations are all very different. Now, most commonly, Americans are going to use the VLS-TS long stay visa, or you might qualify, as I did, for the talent passport visa. I have to say that was especially fantastic. The talent passport visa is really special because it lets you bring your family automatically. My wife also has a residence card. The talent passport is a type of VLS-TS long stay visa, but it's very special because it applies to highly in-demand professionals in certain occupations. It applies to those in the creative industry, such as me. So I'm a film writer, director, and producer professionally. I have projects here in France. That was what actually gave us the runway for me to apply for the Talent Passport visa. And the best part about that is that it is a 1-year live and work permit, and then you can renew it in 4-year chunks at a time. So now I have my residence card, as does Susie, and we can live and work in France for 4 years from when that card was issued. So it's great if you can get it, but it definitely doesn't apply to the majority of people. There are many other types of VLSTS visas though, and that's really what you want to focus on if you're moving here and you want to live in France. If you're retired, you have great options there, and if you're a student, there's also a special runway for doing that. So let's take a look at the French Visa Wizard, shall we? Okay, so the first thing that you see is step 1, do I need a visa? So it asks your situation, you enter your age, if you're married to a French national, your stay, visa type, main destination of stay, and then your travel documents. So we are American. I said that Dave is 42. He's not married to a French national. This is a no to this question here. Your stay, the United States is the answer we're looking for. And long stay, more than 90 days. Main destination of stay, France. It doesn't ask for the city. It just wants to know the country. Okay. So travel document, United States, ordinary passport. Okay, search. So here we go. Dave needs a long stay visa. Okay, so we're at the point in this example where it's asking what Dave's plans are. Why are you making this trip? And these are the options. So I'm going to go back and ask ChatGPT what Dave should select. Using voice to text with ChatGPT is especially helpful in times like this where I want to bounce around and look at documents and read things and ask questions and take a screen grab and upload it and give it all this context in my prompt to help me quickly get to an answer while not having to sit and type everything. So hi ChatGPT, I was just explaining to people that one of the advantages of using voice to text is that I can do what I'm doing now. I've opened up the microphone and now I'm going back to the France visas page. I'm at the section for our hypothetical Dave where it asks his plans. It told us that he needs a long stay visa. I am screen grabbing the parts of the screen that are relevant. And now I'm going to upload this to you along with a screen grab of the options under your plans so you can help me figure this out for Dave. Once you put your voice to text in, before you upload that, you want to go over to the plus button and add file, which in this case are my screen grabs. That way you have all the right context with this question to get the best answer. Okay, so GPT says the correct answer is family or private settlement and main purpose of stay, other stay. Why this matters? If you chose business or professional work placement, that takes you to different visas that require a French job offer or an employer sponsorship, and Dave doesn't have that. He wants to do this on his own. Now, GPT was nice enough to go ahead and tell us what Joanna is going to need to do as well. So if she's applying as a dependent of Dave, which is kind of a tax thing, then she can select also the family or private settlement. But if she's applying as a full-time student, she would select study and then choose the type of school, such as a language school. Notice GPT tells us she'll need proof of acceptance and payment for the course to apply for a student visa. She'll need this before getting the visa. For the kids, they both need the family or private settlement minor child visa. So once you've got the ball rolling on your visa applications, the next thing you have to do is get all your paperwork together. Now that Visa Wizard will tell you very specifically things that you need, but generally speaking, what everyone will need is their birth certificate, and it has to be apostilled. More on that in a second. Your marriage certificates, if that applies, proofs of income, proofs of the health insurance that you need that covers you, typically for a year is what's requested. You will need to translate your key documents into French, and it must be done by a certified translator. More on that in a second. And you have to get your passport photos. The French passport format is different, so you can find this online. There are lots of apps that will take a passport photo for you, and you would need to choose French. So for some of these documents, you need to get what's called an apostille, the birth certificate, probably your marriage certificate. If you don't know what an apostille is, and I didn't until we got married in Denmark, it is essentially an international agreement between multiple countries that gives you a certification and a number and a code that any country can scan and look up that this is a real document. It's essentially a validation, and it is good many, many places around the world. We had to get our Danish marriage certificate apostilled so that it could be validated in China, for instance. So as far as translation goes, I mentioned that you need a certified French translator. That means someone who France has deemed to be a reliable translator. And these people are actually overseen by the courts in France. So search Certified Translator France in Google search engine of your choice or ChatGPT, and you should find some links and some lists to some. I don't have any to recommend. We've used multiple ones as things have come up. So now that you have your mountain of paperwork assembled, the next step is to book your visa appointment. And how and where you do that depends on where you live. There are very commonly visa service centers in the US. That's the most common situation. There are companies, one is called VFS Global, TLS is another one. We used one in China. And you want to find what is the step for you based on where you live. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT what Dave and Joanna should do. Okay, GPT, so moving on, I want to help Dave and Joanna make their visa appointment. Remember, they live in Arlington, Texas. Dallas is close by. So given that, where should they apply for their French visas? So GPT was kind enough to tell us that Dave and Joanna need to apply through VFS Global, and it goes on to tell us specifically where that is and what they do. So the VFS Application Center for them is in Houston, Texas. So it's about a 4.5-hour drive from Arlington. So they probably have to plan for an overnight trip. So the next steps is first complete the Visa Wizard for each family member. You create an account, you download the application form, then it's going to direct them in this case because the French Visa Wizard knows that they are in Arlington. It's going to direct them to the VFS Global site and they will book their appointment in Houston for their visas. So once you have your visa appointment, the next thing you need to do is figure out your housing plan. And this is a big one. This is absolutely tied into your visa approval. France does not work like the US. You cannot apply for a place simply with an application and a credit check and make a deposit, say sight unseen. You cannot do that. You have a giant dossier of documents you will have to provide in France to sign a long-term lease. Plus, until you're actually here and situated, and you've looked around and gotten local, you don't know where you want to be long-term. You may think you do. Trust me, you don't want to book a long-term place from afar. So this is why I suggest in other videos, book an Airbnb for 1 month or 2 months and get yourself a place where you can have the soft landing and figure out where to go next. So understand that you must have a rental contract or a long-term stay booking like an Airbnb for your visa to be approved. They will not let you just get on a plane and have a 1-week hotel booking if you've asked for a 1-year visa. It doesn't work like that. Most people moving aren't coming over here and buying a house right away. They don't have the funds or the ability to do that or the interest to do that. They want to look around and get situated. So after you have gotten here, you're going to want to find a place where you can sign a lease. Signing a rental lease in France is an entire process that involves a dossier. They call it a dossier. It's your stack of paperwork specific to that task. One thing you will need is most likely you will need a guarantor. A guarantor in France is not like a cosigner on a loan, although the concept is similar, where it is a private organization. There are commercial organizations. We use one called GUARANTOR. Some of the big banks offer a guarantee service to their account holders, but a guarantor goes through all your paperwork and makes sure that you make enough money to afford the lease that you want to sign up for. Most rental agencies in France will not even let you see a place without having a guarantee in place. Why do you need a guarantor? You need a guarantor because in France you must net at least 3 times the monthly rent. Most people don't make that much money in France relative to the US for their given job anyway. There are exceptions, but not gross pay. Your net income from France, ideally, must be at least 3 times the rent for the month. There are lots of workarounds. We will have several videos doing deep dives on the rental process and building a dossier and things to consider. But for now, just understand that you need at least a short-term rental for a month or 2 to get your visa approved in the first place. So the next thing you need to do is make your financial plan. Now, of course, you need to do your own budget for your household anyway, like you normally would, but specifically to even get the visa, France wants to see proof of financial stability. Most visas require proof of income or savings. They basically want to make sure that you don't come here and become a charge to society, right? Become a burden and that they have to support you. While you're still in the US, I suggest that you open a multi-currency bank account. Again, this video is not sponsored. I have a Revolut account. Wise is another popular one. But open one of these accounts that allows you to move funds around the world in different currencies. And you can put in US dollars in Dallas, and then you can take out the equivalent in euros in France or Belgium or any place where you have an ATM that the card is accepted. Until you have moved to France and actually opened a French bank account, having a multi-currency account like this that works around the world is great because you can direct funds from your main US account into that account, transfer, move money, etc. And then when you get here and you're ready to open up your French bank account, you can use that to more easily pull it into France as euros. So I really suggest that. So the good news is that your American Visa or MasterCard will work just fine here. You may need to let the bank or the card issuer know that you're traveling overseas so you don't get a fraud alert and be in the middle of your travel and have everything shut down. Definitely let your bank know as well if you're going to use your actual bank debit card. Let them know you're traveling, where you're going to go. You probably know this already, but if not, there you go. Understand that Discover and American Express are basically non-existent here. Discover, I've never seen the Discover sign. American Express is very rarely accepted. Some fancy hotels and high-end boutiques might take it. Don't count on using your American Express card here. The cash economy is not what it used to be. France in general and Paris in particular used to really lag behind in terms of credit card acceptance or tap to pay. But during the run-up to the Olympics, Paris in particular really got its act together. And now you can use tap to pay pretty much anywhere with your phone, with your Apple or Google wallet, or tapping their credit card. It's very simple. So one note about cash. It will be helpful to have a little cash money in your pocket while you're running around, especially some coins. You'll find that very useful to have some 1 and 2 euro coins. But you need euros. Don't bring a bunch of American money here. I don't know why some people still think this. This was a thing maybe 20 years ago before the euro, and US dollars used to be accepted some places for some transactions, but that is literally 20-year-old advice. I was amused last year when we had some people visit, and the guy brought a wad, a few $1,000s of $100 bills. And I'm like, why on earth did you bring all this cash? And he's like, oh, well, if we're paying for stuff, you can use dollars here. I'm like, no, it is. He's like, 1998 is calling. That is not reality. And they actually tried once or twice without me present, fortunately. When they were on their own a few times, they tried, and they were surprised to find out that I was correct, and they ended up getting some euros from the ATM. So the moral of the story is don't bring a huge wad of American cash in your pocket, but definitely have money in an account that you can transfer that money to France once you open your French bank account. So next, for your visa approval, you will need private health insurance for the length of your visa stay. If you're applying for a 1-year visa, you need a year of private health insurance that covers you and your family, if applicable, in France. There are lots of providers online for this. Your provider in the US may offer this. I do not want to do a video about getting insurance. If you really want that, let me know in the comments below. In fact, while you're down there, leave me a comment. Let me know what else you would like to see in general from me and or Susie, and we'll cover it in a future video. Once you get situated here, you are in great hands. France has world-class healthcare, even for foreigners. Once you're legal, you could register for that and get your carte vitale, which is your insurance card. And I will get into all of that in a different video. But for now, understand that you need to get insurance to cover you for the duration of your stay, or again, you're not getting the visa. Phones and internet. You will need a French SIM card ASAP. If you have eSIM capability with your phone, you can buy one from Orange, like the Orange Holiday, and you can scan a QR code and put that into your phone when you're ready to activate it. And when you land in France, you can have a French phone number that's working. If you have a more modern phone that has dual SIM capability, you can either get that second French chip once you're here, or you can get the eSIM once you're here. But you will need a French phone number. So many of the services you use absolutely require that number. They need to text you an authorization code, or they will call you in French usually. So there are lots of providers. There's SFR, there's Orange, there's Free. We're with Orange. I kind of like Orange. Again, they're not sponsoring us. Feel free, Orange. Orange, get at me, okay? In terms of home internet, France has some of the best in the world. I will be uploading this video to YouTube via 8 gigabit per second fiber optic internet. So if you're not a nerd, that means it's insanely fast. I get about 1 gigabit per second uploads on my Wi-Fi on my phone. It is so fast. So I'm a big fan, and it's very cheap. Sometimes French people will complain about the cost of internet here, such as Orange, which is what we have. But as an American, I have no frame of reference for what they're mad about. Now, there are cheaper services than Orange, but our plan includes our home internet, our phones with unlimited everything on the phones and a bunch of international calling and everything else, our TV plan and Netflix. And our total bill with Orange is 64 euros and change a month. It's about $70 a month for what I just said. And that's amazing. If you're an American and you have an unlimited everything on your phone, you're probably paying $100 a month for that line. When it comes to value for phone and internet plans, France definitely wins. In terms of transportation, how are you going to get around? If you're in Paris or nearby like we are, you don't really need a car. Public transport is insanely good here. Between the buses, the RER commuter trains, and the metro subway system, and then the regional trains that go everywhere and throughout Europe, and you can even take the Eurostar to London in 2 hours from Paris. It is beautiful to live here without a car. All of the major big box stores that you might think you're going to miss, we have IKEA here. We have the equivalents of Best Buys and Targets and Walmart, so that we don't really have too many of those. There are a couple of Walmarts, I think, maybe, but never been in one. All of the big box stores where you might buy huge packages of things or appliances, they all have delivery services, and it's cheap compared to what I would pay in the US for the same thing. But there are many apps that I highly recommend for getting around, and there's a RATP app, which is called Bonjour RATP. That is specifically for the French transit system as a whole, and it works kind of like Google Maps or Apple Maps, where you put in where you are and where you're going and how you want to get there, and it shows you your options from driving to walking to transit and gives you estimates of costs. Bonjour RATP also tells you if there is some kind of a strike or a outage of some kind, or if there's a planned outage or strike. And in France, that is something you have to be aware of, is that strikes happen. But usually they let you know with plenty of warning, so at least you can kind of try to plan around it and make alternate plans. There's another app that I wish would pay me a commission called Citymapper. I'm a massive fan of this app. I have used it for years. It works in most major and medium cities around the world. Citymapper is my preferred go-to for my route planning, but there are lots of ways to get around. If you are in Paris specifically, they have the Navigo Pass. If you're moving to Paris, once you live here, and you can prove you live here with your lease or your Airbnb receipt and your ID and your visa and such, you can actually get the proper Navigo card, which allows you to buy up to monthly passes that let you go everywhere. A monthly Navigo pass that lets you use unlimited metro, RER, bus, tram system. It's about 88 euros a month, and Susie and I both have those. It's really great. You can also get a tourist pass, which works very similar. You can also buy one-off tickets on a bus or at the metro or train station. It's very easy to get around here, and I do not miss having a car in the least. Now, if you have your eye on a rural or mountainous location or someplace that's otherwise remote, you will definitely need a car. But living in a major city, it is beautiful to not have to drive and not have to try to find parking, because parking is really difficult, especially in Paris. Let's talk about daycare, schools, and general daily life stuff now. So schools are basically free or cheap. They're very good, and they're run by the state. Daycare is affordable, especially if you can get help from what's called CAF. That is its own video to be made, but applying is a whole giant process, so I'm going to cover that in a long-form video. But remember, you need to bring physical copies of everything imaginable. The bureaucracy here still runs on paper, and that ain't going to change anytime soon. So a few last tips before we're done with the house section. You will need passport photos, a lot. Again, they have to be French sized, so get those made. Make multiple copies, don't just make 2 or 4. Get a whole bunch of those at once. You're going to want to get that French phone number ASAP, like I mentioned. You also may want to get a private mailbox so you have a consistent mail forwarding address. If you're going to be moving around and transitory for a while, it's nice to have one place where all your mail will be there, regardless of where you are physically at the time. You will want to buy a printer and scanner here that, of course, handles A4 paper. That's the French size. And really, the best overall advice I can give you is to learn how to use ChatGPT to prep for all the requirements of what you have to submit to simulate interview questions, rehearse your application interview, and anything else you can think of, really. So we're almost to the end, but now I want to talk about the why. At the core of any big move, you're either running to something or running from something. Somewhere in between, but one of those is probably more dominant. So maybe France is your dream, or maybe the US has just stopped feeling like home, or it's some combination of the two things. Most likely, it's a combination. Either thing is valid, either extreme is valid, and things in between. But you need to be honest with yourself about why you're making this move. It's not easy. You need to ask yourself, are you trying to recreate the life that you had in a new country, or are you here to build something totally new? Do you want comfort or growth? Because you're going to get some of both. Probably a lot more growth than comfort, especially in the early days, but you can make yourself comfortable once you have some time and you know the ropes. Living abroad can be wonderful. It's awesome. I've done it multiple places and times in my life, but it's also very hard and very bureaucratic, and it can be lonely at times. Even if you're with other people you care about, the process can be lonely. So asking yourself why you're doing it, understanding yourself, understanding your why will help you stay grounded when things are frustrating or difficult or seem impossible. So I suggest that you do a thought experiment that I have done many times, and I do regularly whenever I'm facing some big new challenge or opportunity, is what do I want my life to look like in 5 years? And how do I get there? And in this case, how does France support your vision of that? How do you think moving to France is going to support that why? Answer those questions for yourself, make peace with the answer, and then your path is clear and everything else will be a lot easier. So we made it to the end for now. If this video helped you, please subscribe to the channel so you can see future videos on all these kinds of topics and more. Please like this one to let me know that, good job, appreciate it, and encourage me to do similar things. And comment below, either if you have questions about any of this or if there's something you want to see more specifically, and I will do my best to address it. Myself or Susie, one of us, both of us, will address things in future videos for you. And if you want to do a private consult with me, I've opened up a few slots. The link is below, so you can try to book a slot if you want to speak to me about any of this. Again, remember, I can't help you get your visa, but I can talk you through your process. And I have many more thoughts that didn't make it into the video, so I'm happy to help you however I can. And finally, if you're serious about France, check out our other videos that we have posted now. Subscribe, as I said, so that you can see what we do in the future, and let us know so we can make them just for you if possible. Now, as promised, as a bonus, I wanted to mention 3 channels that I really love that we've gotten a lot of value from. So after you've watched our videos, go check these out if you want some more information. So Les Frenchies, Baguette Bound, and Jay Swanson. Hope you have a great day. All the best with your plans, and hope to see you in France.